Hey all, Satish here. From here onwards, let's start exploring microcontrollers. Before starting this, make sure that you have gone through all our previous chapters, that is with the basic electronics, where we went through all the components like resistors, capacitor, transistors, and how to use them, and how using that we built different circuits. So make sure that you have gone through that course, or else what will happen is you will not be able to understand some small circuits which I do here. So these microcontroller chapters kind of builds on the knowledge that you have gained there. Nowadays microcontrollers have become so cheap that for almost all simple applications also we have started to use microcontroller. So using microcontrollers, most of the analog circuits that we did will become very easy actually, because everything is written in the form of a code. So all the logics are implemented in the code itself. So it becomes very easy. I'm planning to do two makes of microcontrollers together, one from Renesas and one from Microchip. So why two is because I wanted all of you to see how easy it is to shift from one microcontroller to another if you know the basics of it correctly. So initially I started with PIC and then migrated to Renesas chips. So initially I used to think that whatever project I start, I have to do always with the PIC or microchip logic, because I understood what are the tools and all the things. I was very hesitant to shift from one to another one. But once I made the shift, I realized that it is very easy. So I wanted you to also experience that coding on two different microcontrollers are not different, so that you can are open to whichever microcontroller is very cost effective or available or useful to you. In this tutorial, I am going to show you how to code on Microchip and Renesas. So the Microchip one I'll be doing on the PIC series, and in the Renesas I'll be using the RL78 series. I think all of you would have heard of Arduino. So even though it's very useful, I strongly suggest that you don't use Arduino, because I've seen that most of the guys who use Arduino don't have much design knowledge. What happens is all the libraries, everything is available online. So you don't write any libraries, not you explore much, as everything is available online. You just build on top of it. So finally, what happens is when you actually start designing a product. So I've never seen a product that has been designed on Arduino. So what happens is you know everything on Arduino, and when you go to something like basic like a Microchip or NSS or any other make, you will have no clue of how to write a driver, how to do the configuration. So most of the people I have met get stuck there. So I would suggest you to avoid Arduino if you are serious about designing circuits with microcontrollers. And programming language. For most of the programming in microcontrollers, most popular or common language uses your basic C. So you will have to use the software. For example, Microchip will have MPLAB IDE and Renesas has CS+. So you have to use their IDE. So when it comes to software, there are two parts of it. First one is the IDE, that is the Integrated Development Environment, and the second one is the compiler. So IDE it's a like for example, this Visual Studio is an IDE. This is where you write the code, or Android. This is where you write the code. So this gives a user interface for you to write the code, and this gives all the functionality like copy, pasting, error checking, and all these things. And compiler is a backend one. So that is the one that actually converts your code which you have written in C into a hex code that can be burnt onto the microcontroller. All of you have studied that you have to burn a hex code into the microcontroller. So compiler is the one that will convert the C code that you have written into hex code. In this tutorial, in all the future tutorials, I will write the code in both Microchip and in Renesas. So first I'll do the Microchip and then do the Renesas in the same chapter, so that I'll show you how to write a code in a structured way, so that it is copying from one microcontroller to another microcontroller also becomes very easy. And what happens is, generally when I've seen like people coming out of college, they write code, but it is very messed up. It is not structured way. So during the course of these chapters, I will show you how to write the code in a very structured way, so that it is easy to read, or maintaining the code or updating the code becomes very easy. So in this chapter, let's install the softwares. For example, let's start with Microchip. So in Microchip, let's go and download the software. So there, MPLAB IDE. This is the IDE. So to download, so let me download from here. So I have a Windows PC, so let's do a Windows installation. And also, if you have gone through our previous chapters, do install Proteus. So the microchip code or whatever I'll write, I'll simulate it in Proteus, and the Renesas code, whichever I write, I'll show it to you on the hardware, so that you understand both the things. The basic electronics, we have come up with kits where you can buy the kit from us, assemble each component and test it. So similarly, in this chapter also, let me see if I can come up with a kit for all the circuits that we design for Microchip and Renesas both, so that you can buy them, assemble and build your code. So now we are downloading the MPLAB IDE. So we should also download the compiler. Over here it is XE compiler. So in this, I think they have 3 versions of it: XE8 for 8-bit, XE16 for 16-bit, and XE32 for 32-bit. Yeah, compiler download. So let's start with the 8-bit compiler. So as we go higher, once our basics is finished, I'll select a 16-bit controller when we actually do Wi-Fi and 4G or 2G modems, where we actually transmit the data to the cloud. So how I see it, by the end of this basics, you will be able to understand how to use a microcontroller, how to do the ADC and all these things. And once we finish that, let's go do an advanced course where we start communicating with the server or transmit data over Wi-Fi, like do an IoT kind of an application. Okay, I'll pause the video till it is complete. We should first install the IDE, then we'll install the compiler. Let's install the IDE. I'm not planning to use a 32-bit controller, so I'll not install this. In this course, we'll use a 8-bit, and in the next IoT course, let's use a 16-bit controller. So I'll install these two. Okay, let it finish installing. The Microchip IDE took a long time to install. So XE compiler we have downloaded, we'll install. This code configure also we will install from the IDE directly. So once the IDE is installed, let's install the compiler. So you add this XE8 part to the environment. After this installation, this will automatically write into the MPLAB IDE that this compiler has been installed. Finish. Once this is over, let's open the IDE. So it would have come here, MPLAB X IDE. There is one more thing that you will have to install, that is a microchip code configure, MCC it is called as. So using that, it's an easier way to configure the ports rather than going to the data sheet and checking each of the configuration bits and doing it. This will give a UI where you can do it automatically, but I will do it manually to show you how to go through the datasheet. So once this is open, I'll show you how to set it up. So I think you have to go to tools, plugins, available plugin. It is called Microchip code configure. So install that. So here I think MCC logo will start coming at this point. Okay, the logo has come. So now our installation is complete. From the next chapter, let's start writing simple codes. So now let's download the software for Renesas controller. It's called as CS Plus. Let me search for it. Downloads. We need CACX, CS Plus for CA, this is device information. So evaluation software. So this is what we want, evaluate CS Plus CACX. So in Renesas, what happens is it is bundled into a single, the IDE and compiler is bundled into a single application file. So in Microchip, we saw that we first downloaded the IDE, then downloaded the compiler and installed it. Here everything comes as a single bundle. So let it finish downloading. Now let's extract it and install the Renesas CS Plus IDE. Let me pause. And Flash programmer tool. Okay, let's update the Flash programmer tool. Install the Flash programmer tool also. So this will be used to, this is a additional software using which you can program the microcontroller without opening the IDE. It's a standalone application. Okay, let's open the IDE. Okay, now we have this IDE is also installed. So in the next chapter, let's write a code for this also.